what the fuck is going on. Toure, I brought you here for one reason.
Just one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
more
I guess
people
I'm not
should
adding
see,
much. So
more people need to see more diversity on screen. I think we have so many shades of diversity on screen right now. Sorry,
bad lefty. Yep.
The Cabin in the Woods
Mm.
has the meta horror and self-awareness thing going on. They turn the trope on its head by making the characters aware of the archetypes they represent. You've spoke about Cabin in the Woods before. Does this satire reveal something about our collective desensitization or need for horror? And how does the film, in your opinion, critique horror audiences themselves? And I'll start with JG, because I want to hear Toure's response to what JG has to say, because he goes, I have some words about Cabin in the Woods that are not good. So you see he grabbed his cigarette.
Well, I'm not okay. Maybe it's the way. Okay, I'm not a big fan of that movie, even though taken on its own, I can enjoy it and enjoy the ride of it. But I feel like it's a movie that thinks it's more clever than it is, in kind of pointing out this idea that, you know, the well has run dry with the horror genre. It kind of beats you over the head with that point. Although I guess that is the point of the film. Like, you know, the well has run dry and it's just trope after trope. And I just think that when I watched the movie, I said, well, yeah, of course, I know that already. I guess I just thought it was very, like, demeaning towards the genre, and maybe I'm too much of a fan of the horror genre to take that critique. So maybe that's my issue with it. I don't know.
Toure Reed.
I like that, but what I actually kind of like Cabin in the Woods, but I think I'm with JG on that because it was a reaction to a genre that was kind of stale. And particularly subgenre zombies have been done to death, slashers have been done to death, demonic possessions in the woods have been done quite a bit. But even so, I like the film, except the ending, and I despise the ending because it's too nihilistic. And in a way, what bothered me, well, I'll take the in a way out. What bothered me about the film, when all is said and done, is that it's nihilistic. And that's it. One word.
That's all.
Sure. I mean, I figure other people will talk, right? We'll have a little banter. We'll back and forth about this. Maybe I'm full of shit.
I mean, how did you feel about
the
guys? What would you call the guys kind of pulling the levers of horror tropes to kill the kids to feed the blood god or whatever it was,
for the good of humanity
Yeah.
around the globe?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of fun. What I liked about it is explained, obviously, in a tongue-in-cheek insider kind of way, why characters in slasher films, maybe in particular, but in horror maybe more broadly, do a lot of really obviously dumb shit, like separate from each other, right? Or read the Book of the Dead. Like, why the fuck would you do that? I wouldn't mess with any of that shit.
There's tons of tropes about reading the Necronomicon, by the way.
Clearly. And they punctuate the film, right? But so I dug that because it was sort of an insider jab at the stupid cliches in the genre and offered some explanation for them. But like I said, I mean, the big problem for me is that as awful as it is that we would sacrifice, or they would sacrifice, I guess, the CIA or whatever it is of the occult. What was it? The Initiative or whatever in Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 3. I mean, it was something like that. That's horrible that you'd take X number of young people and sacrifice them for the greater good. Then in the end, to destroy all of civilization, including the young people themselves, just bugged the hell out of me. That's it. And it was well done for what it was,
right?
Too, right? And then you were in it too, right? As the security guard, Jason.
Wait, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Weren't you the brother who is in the main office?
Illinois and shake shit out?
Well, the time we talked about this with Ben, you likened me to Jesse. What's his face?
Did
Williams.
I
Jesse
say it?
Williams. Yes, you said it aloud, motherfucker. I mean, Jason. So I was all right. Well, you the security guard that way. So both things might apply.
Wow. Well, that's fair.
That's why we're friends.
That's fair. God, I did that.
JG, I'm sorry.
Aren't you glad I don't have that big of an audience to rate?
And he was in the Shield too. So.
I wanted to say I think Toure has a very good point. It is a very nihilistic ending, and that's the other thing I don't like about it is I think the whole movie is a commentary on the horror genre, and it sort of just cops out at the end and says there's nothing new under the sun. It's just it's the destruction of the world, and that therefore the destruction of the genre as a whole, right? Like it's kind of saying there's nothing new that can be done with horror. And I think what's weird is that movie came out I think in 2011 or 2012. But I'm not sure people feel that way about horror movies anymore, especially when you have these like A24 movies coming out that are doing something different or something that feels different. You know, I think that horror has sort of outlasted the thesis of Cabin in the Woods. I do think there are some new daring horror films that have come out, especially in the past decade. Barbarian,
Barbarian blew my mind as far as what you can do with a horror movie. That really blew my mind. I think what changed in horror, in my opinion, outside of Terrifier, and I think Terrifier is an outlier, rhyme intended, is that there's no lust for franchising, because as A24 figured out, you can sell the branding of the film studio in a way that you couldn't sell it before, because there's just more places to talk about these things, more echo chambers for horror that didn't exist. You were a special kind of nerd if you knew who Fred Olen Ray was, or Roger Corman, or you knew about Canon Films, or what was Corman's Trans World? Which one was he, JG?
Yeah, I think it was New World, and then
New
was
World.
like New Horizons.
Yeah, like if you knew,
was another one.
If you knew these names, you were out there. You were kind of also like the rap guy that actually knew to look for Stax records, because that's where the good players were going to be, or you would read who played on an album, and that's the one you would pick up to try to sample from. You know, you were a special kind of music freak or movie nerd if you knew that kind of stuff. Now it's a little different, because being a nerd is actually really cool. And following A24, like we never would have seen this in the 80s, because Canon Films never would have went away, because we would have kept going to the theater to see He-Man 4, Ninja 47. But there wasn't the love affair with the company the way it is now. I think more people love A24 than the movies it produces. Like, I refuse to believe that there's people out there that are like, dude, Lamb just, I loved Lamb. I've fucked a few sheep in my life, and really speaks.
When you were touring in the Dakotas or whatever.
Sometimes you play to a room full of sheep babies, and you're like, wow, the amount of sheep fuckers out here. No, I'm just kidding. All my friends in the Dakotas. I know you don't fuck sheep. That was said by a non-Dakotan. So remember,
because there are not that many sheep in Dakotas.
You can reach him at treed@gmail.com. Listen here, Mr. Toure. JG, you're not a fan of the movie Lamb?
I've never seen Lamb. I'm not the biggest A24 guy.
You don't want to fuck a sheep?
See, I was going to ask you, JG, if you had seen Under the Skin, which was an early A24, I think, with Scarlett.
I have seen Under the Skin. Yeah.
What did you think of that?
Thought it was a very weird take
on the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to Wikipedia it because, you know, there were a lot of things open to interpretation, and that helped me appreciate the film, but there was too much open to interpretation. I thought it was kind of interesting, though, for what it was.
Do
Yeah,
you?
we're
So have
talking
you
about
guys?
the Scarlett Johansson movie, right?
Yep, where she's an
Okay,
alien
yeah.
seductress. Yeah.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
whole different genre movie, actually.
A24, though.
The Species
I didn't realize that
knockoff.
was an A24 movie when I saw it.
It is. Yeah. That was my introduction to A24.
Really?
Yeah. And it was
What was
intriguing. I mean,
what was
it
their
wasn't
first
like
big movie?
Species. Hers?
No, what was A24's first big movie?
I mean, The Witch is the one that I'm aware of that blew up. But was there something before The Witch?
Yeah, JG, did you watch The Witch? The Witch?
I have not seen The Witch, but
I haven't seen The
Oh,
Witch
shit.
either. I've tried to watch it
Really?
like 7 times, fall
And you
asleep
fell
every
asleep?
time.
Yeah,
Every
don't watch
time.
it at night, right? Watch it
I
in the
do watch it at
afternoon
night.
with the blinds open. It's paced in a way that it's kind of soothing in that regard because of the pacing that I could see would put you to sleep. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it's one of the few period pieces that really takes the period seriously.
Yes.
And that's a plus and a minus. But I found the conclusion a really interesting commentary on the times. But, you know, if I'm new when we saw it, pass. We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, and we're not
You
talking
know,
about the beaches.
Yeah, wrong.
I was going to say
Or
my
era.
first A24 movie was have you guys seen Green Room?
Yeah.
Oh,
Patrick
fuck,
Stewart?
dude.
Story of Jason's life.
That was an early one too, like
Oh,
2000. I like that
dude.
movie a lot.
Yeah.
You don't understand. There's a few movies where I've seen them and been like, I've lived that. The Sound of Metal?
Yes, The Pretty Dress.
The Sound of Metal? Have you guys seen The Sound of Metal?
Oh, no, that's not the drummer movie with the someone deaf, maybe? I don't know. They make that.
Yes,
I have not.
Yes.
I have not, but it's been recommended to me.
That you can watch that movie and there's scenes in it that are literally taken from my life. And I refuse to believe I've never met that person that wrote it. Because I was like, there's no way in the world you could know these intimate details unless you knew Cindy and I. It's about a 2-piece experimental metal band, and the drummer loses his hearing, and he has to stop. And it's a good. It's. Oof. It's.
So you never heard of Tuck and Patty?
I have, but they're not us.
No, clearly.
No, not even close. And that's like the 80s.
I think I saw them in the early 90s.
Yeah, we were at a fucking bar.
Pretty much, yeah. I think it was in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Sounds
when
about
I was in
right.
college.
Did you have a fucking scarf on at the same time?
I'll tell you this. I did not, but it was a collection of people in my dorm in Western Massachusetts who said, you got to go see Tucker Patty. So I went, and I think Patty and I were the black people present, maybe.
Dude, someone says the Green Room is the prequel to TIR. That is the funniest shit.
I hope not, considering.
I know more people that when we say green, there's a few movies that people that tour, they go, ooh. Hostel is one, because if you've toured overseas, you've probably had to stay in something that looks like that, in a town that looks like that.
Okay.
I fucking hate that movie so much.
And there's people that are like, sorry, won't watch. I have a good friend, my buddy. I won't say his name, but he's like, won't watch it. I remember we were watching it at his house in Florida one day, and he goes, either you turn it off, I'm just going in a different room. Because he's like, I tour out there, don't want to see it. Green Room has that effect like that on me. I saw it one time. Okay. I never need to see it again. Because the opening scene where they're playing at the restaurant-y bar place, and there's like no one really there, and the dude goes, I got a cousin that can get you a show. The siphoning gas thing, I don't know anyone that's ever done that on tour. I'm sure someone like Henry Rollins probably can tell you some gnarly story, or Eugene Robbins will tell you some gnarly story about siphoning gas and all kind of other weird shit, keister and dope. But everything else in that movie, showing up in a place full of like white supremacists and shit like that, being terrified to go into the green room or backstage area, seeing nefarious activities go on in a venue, all those things we've experienced. Not the murder part, but
Well, I'm glad you clarified.
if you've been in a fringe metal punk band and traveled all over these here United States of America, you've had that exact situation. You played your heart out for no one. Someone told you, "Oh, you need a show. You have an off day. My cousin can do a thing for you 6 hours north." Such a common thing someone throws at you, and you get there and you're like, where the fuck am I? Why am I here? And oh my god, this is terrifying. Can't watch it. Too scary.
You know,
So-
I'm just surprised. So you really have friends that are like spooked by Hostel? So I watched that movie and just thought it was like the xenophobic fantasies of a frat boy and what they think.
Well, and I was going to ask you, JG, if one of the reasons you didn't like Hostel, and I'm not a fan for the same reason that I don't like the Saw films. It's a variation on the same problem. And I look at Hostel as the poor man's Wolf Creek. Like somebody saw Wolf Creek.
I could see that, yeah.
Does have a point, and the violence
Based on a
isn't as
true fucking
graphic.
story. Wolf Creek, there's a real guy.
Very, very vaguely based on a true story.
It's pretty right on.
I don't know how right on it is, but Wolf Creek has an interesting commentary about tourists and interlopers and deindustrialization or whatever you call it out in the outback. I don't know what the fuck you call it, but anyway, and it's an interesting slasher film, right? Where the slasher the serial killer has kind of a motive of sorts, sociopathic motive, and then you get Hostel as taking an element and just turning up the violence to 11 and turning down the plot to 0.
I think for the people that I know that are afraid of it, it's more again kind of like Green Room, where it's like I've been in that scenario where I've stayed in that city and you meet weird people and you come with us to the club, yeah, and you what do you mean these are blood sprinklers?
Was that was the sequel, right? I mean, that was Hostel 2. I've seen both, the first and the second.
I thought the first one is when they meet the girls.
No, the blood sprinkler thing.
I was joking about that as a reference. I feel like any woman that's too attracted to me is a vampire.
Okay.
Like if I was walking, like if I was in somewhere, and,
not just on Bourbon Street.
Oh fuck, anywhere in the world. If I'm like in DC and some like hot gothy woman of color like saunters over to me and she's like, "You're so attractive. Me and my friends are gonna go to a place where attractive people dance. You want to come?" I'll be like, "Nah, you're a vampire. Nah, you're a vampire. No one talks to me like that."
I just thought that I thought Hostel was so over the top in like its premise. Like it's the type of stuff that I would expect to hear on like some conservative talk radio show. Like, don't go to these hostels where those strange Eastern Euros. You get what I mean? I'm like,
communist
and of course
nations
Eli
have
Roth comes up with it, you know.
Murder rooms in these communist nations. They trick you with hot communist ass.
I will say I did laugh at one part of Hostel 2 when you have you remember there were two characters that were like going to a snuff party and the one didn't want to kill anyone and the other did.
Yes.
And then they reverse roles.
Yes.
Right? And the Roger Bart character like gets into the killing and he says, "I am fucking Hercules," which was hilarious to me because that's the guy that voiced Hercules in the Disney movie.
Oh,
it shows you how much of a nerd I am to know that. But I laughed.